So, green spaces in cities have always been a haven of biodiversity for urban places. Birds, animals, plants, and even insects use this as their own habitat and breeding grounds. In addition, the trees in these spaces filter carbon-filled airs and purify them for city dwellers to use. One of these green spaces can be observed here in UP campus. A vast array of pollinators which helps in the pollination and reproduction of plants can be found in green spaces. Though it is possible to have them there, it is quite unsure if they can live outside of it and thrive in city conditions. To help in maintaining of other green spaces and help them pollinate each other. Thus, with this video, it is a task to look and see if insect pollinators such as bees, wasps, butterflies, and flies have the capability to not only propagate and help the plants of these green spaces reproduce, but also maintain it. Also, it is an objective to look if these pollinators can survive city conditions.
Plants are one of the major contributors when it comes to sources of oxygen. Their contribution to the maintenance of the Earth's atmosphere is far too important for anyone to disregard. Their constant cycle of respiration would exchange the carbon dioxide with the much-needed oxygen that a great number of other organisms would need to survive. Oxygen is essential for cellular respiration for these said organisms. Plants would also be a major part of the food chain given how plants are primary sources of nutrition for a great deal of animals. They are also responsible for the recycling of biochemical material which moves from organism to organism and back to the soil or ground. Plants play an important role in most ecosystems around the planet, serving as food and shelter for populations of animals that roam the earth. And on an economic viewpoint, they also serve humans in providing materials for various products used in their daily lives. The wood for houses, the clothing that they wear, or even the very food that they eat most likely had something to do with the vegetation that grows everywhere. To give a strict definition to pollination, it is the process in which the pollen, containing genetic information of the parent organism, is transferred from the male part of the plant, the anther, to the female part of the plant, the stigma, of the same species. Flowers serve as the main tool for plants to pollinate. These reproductive organs are the source of both male and female gametes required by the plant to reproduce. This is where the fruit comes from, and therefore the seeds as well. This process cannot be done by the plant alone, for they are dependent on external factors such as the environment, wind and water, or other organisms to transfer the pollen they hold. And one of the major contributors to the pollination of great amounts of plants would be insects. Plants and insects have had interactions for millions of years dating back to the Carboniferous period. These organisms co-evolved and have thrived together throughout the millennia. Plants, much like any other organism, would require members of their species to procreate in order for their kind to survive. And to do so would often require pollination. It is important to take note that some species of plants are able to reproduce asexually without the use of pollinators. However, the most common among extant species of plants, namely the angiosperms, rely greatly on pollinators for their reproduction. And as mentioned earlier, plants would serve a very important role in maintaining life on the planet. To put into perspective the importance of pollination to the modern lifestyle of humans, in the United States, 1/3 of agricultural products would require pollination for them to grow. These would include various fruits and vegetables that not only reach American households but to those around the world, a major food source that greatly depends on pollination. Again, it is to be emphasized in this video, however, the importance of pollinators in plant reproduction for their function in gas exchange and its benefits to society. And to narrow down even further, this video would like to focus the importance of insects as pollinators of plants within urban areas in the so-called green spaces.
Again, we have a problem first that if pollinators have the capability to survive in these urban areas and green spaces, knowing well the amount of air and sound pollution and the varying weather and climate conditions and the limited amount of green spaces and food resources for such insects. In a study conducted by Samuelson and other researchers at Holloway University in London, bees apparently are much more healthier when they use the city as their habitat. This is due to the lesser use of insecticides in the city, than in farms and in rural areas, and the amount of flower diversity is far wider in the urban gardens and green spaces of these areas. Thus, it creates a safer and healthier space for them. Also, in an article written by Daily, a Tufts University graduate student named Noah Wilson Rich created a company called Best Bees, which is a beekeeping company that runs hundreds of hives in 9 major cities in America. Lastly, beehives are popping left and right in cities like New York, which just legalized beekeeping in the city, and Berlin. With that said, pollinators are safe and successful within the city. Cities just need to have the necessary prerequisites for these pollinators to thrive, which are a proper home and a diverse food source across the area. With regards to the maintenance and preparation of green spaces in urban areas, there was a study conducted by Aronson and others in 2017, which states that a lot of green spaces have actually been visited by pollinators such as bees and butterflies. In addition, these pollinators not only help in the reproduction of plants, but it also adds a lot of plant biodiversity in such green spaces. It is not explicitly said that they are the sole propagators and maintainers of these green spaces, but it can be concluded that they play a major role in the biodiversity and reproduction of the plants within it, thus increasing the survival of plants in urban areas.